Hello my beautiful people and welcome back to my channel. With the spring being just around the corner, I wanted to share my top eyeshadow palettes. They're just perfect for this season. If you're looking for a bright and playful colors, or you would like a little bit more pastel and soft hues, these palettes will get you covered. A lot of these palettes are affordable and accessible, and you may already have them in your collection. And if you do, this is your sign to take them out for a spin. But before we get started, I would like to welcome my new visitors and viewers to my channel. Hi, my name is Eve. Here on my channel, I talk all things beauty, skincare, makeup, hair care, and at times lifestyle things like travel and fashion. I post new videos every week in a long and short form content. And if that sounds interesting to you, I hope you stick around and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that already. Without further ado, let's dive into my spring eyeshadow palette selection. For the makeup look that I'm wearing on my eyes today, I've used one of the palettes that's going to be in my recommendations today. I do have 11 eyeshadow palettes to share with you today. These are all the palettes that I like a lot. They have beautiful formulas, easy to work with, and they all have beautiful color stories. They're of course perfect for spring. Some of them also can be used year round if that's something that you enjoy. Makeup is of course a very personal choice, and I myself have a few eyeshadow palettes that I use year round and I do not get tired of them. But whenever I think of spring, I always think of softer colors like pinks and corals, greens, lilacs. Today I have 11 eyeshadow palettes to share with you, and some of them are a little bit more colorful, some of them curated, and of course you will see some palettes they're fully neutral but still perfect for spring. And I want to start with a palette that's considerably colorful. It is also considerably new to my collection. I've only had it in my possession for several months now. However, I am very excited to pull it out for spring. This is Gardens of Juvia's by Juvia's Place. This is a very colorful story, however it's a little bit muted. Of course, we see a lot of Easter shades, mint and soft pinks and lilacs, a few neutral tones down here to play with. Here you have a good balance between mattes and shimmer formulas. However, there are two different formulas within this palette. So some of these shades are pigments and some of them they are eyeshadows. So, and then all the information you would find at the back of the palette. So when doing the application of those formulas, you'd need to consider what the formulation is to prep your eyes properly. However, I did not encounter any duds in this palette. Everything performed really well according to its formulation, and some of the shimmers are absolutely spectacular. They definitely can be built up. They are light and airy, however they still show off that color that you see in a pan here. You can apply them on a stickier base if you like a little bit more color concentration. However, I really enjoyed them as toppers as well. This next palette I enjoy generally, and I think this is a beautiful color story. However, I also especially enjoy it in spring. This is a Dreamy palette from NABLA. I recently have done the ranking for all my NABLA eyeshadow palettes. If you are interested to check out that video, you are more than welcome. I will have it linked for you here in the cards and in the description box as well. In my opinion, it's just a beautiful color story that has a softer mauve and pinky undertones, and I absolutely love the combination of like purples and mauves and pinks for spring. This color story, to my opinion, is just so cohesively made, and you can mix two shades. You can do just one shade all over your lid. You can do like a very simple 1 or 2, 3 eyeshadow looks, or you can just really go to town and mix eyeshadows on top of each other. The undertones and shades themselves are so well made, kind of like in that tune monochromatic scheme that they blend together so well. If you'd like to mix so many different shades together, you can, and it's not going to come out muddy or not cohesive. It's quite the opposite. I find this to be a very easy palette to work with. All the shades blend together really well. They layer on top of each other really well. Nothing fades, nothing creases. NABLA eyeshadow formula is generally one of my favorites to work with. There is a consistency within the formula here, so you get your classic mattes and classic shimmers. This one shade here, it does have a little bit more of like that glittery base. However, you still get the color that you see here. You may want to use it on a stickier base. In my eyes, this palette is such a gem. The next palette that I want to share with you, again, has a little bit of color in it. However, it is also half neutral. This palette also carries a little secret that I will share with you when I'm going to be talking about the palette. This is Allure 3 by Juvia's Place. This palette generally has one of my favorite color stories. This is a 6-pan palette, considerably small palette. However, this, to my opinion, is quite unique color story. You do have your beautiful neutrals here, and then you have some pops of color here. This shade right here may seem like it's just generally a boring brown color, but it is not. It's actually a really deep burgundy shade that does show up once you start blending it. I did not encounter any duds in this palette. However, there are pigments and there are eyeshadows in this palette, so just be mindful of that. This top row may look a little bit intimidating and scary, but believe me when I say it's very, very beautiful, and it just looks very flattering on eyes. It just blends into skin really easily. Like I promised, I wanted to share a small secret with you that's no longer going to be a secret, and I hope this will help you with your purchasing decisions if you were thinking to purchase that palette. Recently, Too Faced launched the new palette, Italian Spritz, and it's a very good looking palette, and it's getting a lot of hype. I really think that that palette is beautiful and attractive, and the packaging is very fun and reminds you of Italian vacations and really fun cocktails. However, you do not need this palette, and I also did not need that palette, so I did not pick it up, even though I got inspired by the color story. But what I did instead is that I pulled out this palette instead. The really good, fun portion, to my opinion, of the Italian Spritz palette by Too Faced is very, very similar to this beautiful Little by Mighty palette. If you were thinking to purchase the Italian Spritz palette, I generally encourage you to look into this before you do that. However, if you are a neutral lover just like me, this next palette might be just right for you. Even though I'm a huge neutrals lover, I still love to differentiate my neutrals. Not all neutrals are the same, and this palette gives you just enough variety to play with throughout the seasons. This is the Born This Way, the Natural Nudes by Too Faced. This is a palette that was a first edition from the brand. There is also a secondary palette that looks quite similar to this, but not completely the same. Formula is really comfortable to work with. It's perfect for beginner. It doesn't require specific technique. It blends really easily. I do have a tutorial, I believe, on my Instagram, maybe even here on YouTube, how I created a really beautiful look with this. If you know me, you already know that I do love the gradient of shades, which here in this palette you do get. Besides that, the formula is really beautiful and easy to work with. What makes it special for me in this palette is that there's a variety of undertones. True neutrals, here you have your pink shades here, and then there's a little bit warmer area right here, both mattes and shimmers. And this is something that I truly enjoy. This is a palette that I reach out to quite a bit out of all my neutral palettes, and for a good reason. If you enjoy your neutrals, however, you like a little bit more pinks to play with, I do have another palette to show you today, and it is quite affordable. This is Celestial Love by Moira. I've featured this palette in one of my recent videos where I shared a really cute and easy look tutorial. Here in this palette, you see a little bit more of a pinker tones and some pink shades. There is a gradient of shades from lighters to darkers. There's a good balance between mattes and shimmers. There's also this beautiful topper that has a little bit more of that higher reflect to it and looks very beautiful, layered with any of these shades that you already want on your lid. But if you like a little bit more sparkle, it does have those like very small glitter particles that pick up on the light so beautifully. I've tried multiple looks with this palette already, and I really enjoyed this topper glittery shade to put on top of whatever look you already created, or you can even have it on bare lid with just an eyeliner. It gives you that ethereal shimmer that is just so beautiful. However, if you are the person who loves very pigmented formulas and very pigmented heavy shimmers, like fully foiled shimmers, this palette may not be for you. However, if you love those easy to wear, very airy day to night type of looks that have a little bit of glitz to them, then this is a wonderful palette to try. So this next palette is definitely something that is a good add-on palette for if you already have your collection of eyeshadows, if you already love everything you have and maybe maybe you just want to add a little bit of like oomph to your collection and just jazz up your looks a little bit, then this may be a good palette to look into. And this is a Desert Lights from Flower Beauty. This is a full shimmer palette. All 6 pens are shimmers, and this palette has been sold out for such a long time. I couldn't get my hands on this. This shimmer formula is absolutely out of this world amazing to my opinion. They are definitely more on a thicker, like full foiled effect type of shimmer. However, they would jazz up any matte that you already have in your collection. Stunning formula, very creamy on touch. Like when you touch the shades, they just melt into your fingers. Stunning, they adhere to your eyes with no issues. These shades also have a very high shine, high reflect. This could be an interesting add-on. The palette that I used to create this look that's on my eyes today, formula that I already enjoy very thoroughly. I do have a majority of the brand's eyeshadow palettes in my collection. This specific color story is very spring-like to me. And this is a Cor-De-Rosa eyeshadow palette from Sigma Beauty. This is definitely a very warm, very pink and gold eyeshadow palette, a little bit of neutral. For my look today, I started with this shade Cor-De-Rosa in my crease. Then I built up my crease with this shade Medallion. And then I used this matte brown shade to outline my lower lash line and a little bit on the outer corner. This golden shade is called Sun Sprite all over my lid, and then Belle of the Ball in my inner corner, in my brow bone. Even though there's so many beautiful colors in this palette, I really find myself creating more simpler looks out of this palette. I feel like with this palette, less is more. Let me know if you already own this palette and like it as much as I do. Now, this next palette I very much enjoy. It's been with me for a few years now, and it always gives me definitely a spring vibe. And this is a Nude Light from Huda Beauty. When I make looks with this palette, it just gives me this like angelic vibes and reminds me of spring, of course. It gives you like very soft, very romantic look, very easy to work with formula, no dots in this palette. And I really like that there is a differentiation between the midtones of these mattes. I really think that it is a quite special color story. Let's do a little bit of a throwback on this next palette. There's a high chance they already have this palette in your collection and you love it as much as I do. This is Norvina eyeshadow palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. Let me know if you love this palette as much as I do, because I do love it so much, and every time I open up this palette, it just gives me inspiration. These shimmers are so beautiful. These colors are so beautiful. The mattes, of course, it's ABH, a famous formula that's just so easy to work with. As a neutrals lover, I do have so much appreciation for this palette. You have a little bit of warmness, you have a little bit of cool undertones here, and if you like a little bit of pinks and lilac, you can definitely play with some of these shimmers here. If you already have this palette in your collection, let me know if you already took it out for the season, or if not yet, then this is your sign to do that. So we're down to the last 2 palettes, and they have something in common. So I initially wanted to only include one of them, but then I decided that I do want to include both of them. They're both very good palettes. However, they are still a little bit different within their undertones. The first palette that I wanted to talk about, and I'm also excited to tell you that this palette is back to be available on brand's website. For a while there, we really all thought that it was gone forever. However, it is back and it is available for you to purchase if you still want it in your life. This is an Avocado Toast from BH Cosmetics. This is a palette that I personally picked up last year, so it is considerably a new palette to me. This palette is currently in my shop, my stash rotation for a month of March. I do them on a monthly basis, and every time I switch, I do rank all my eyeshadow palettes that I selected for that month rotation. This is the palette that's obviously quite curated to the greens. However, you do still get a little bit of neutral shades here. I very much enjoy this yellow tone here that just pairs really well with some of these neutrals for a very simple look. I usually throw this all over my lid and maybe use some of these neutral shades, either dipping up my crease or a little bit in outer corner, and just throw a brown liquid eyeliner and I'm good to go. Such a beautiful, easy go-to eye look. However, it's different, and this is also a pastel. If you were looking for a really soft yellow pastel, this is a really beautiful shade. underneath. Mattes are really easy to work with. They're blendable, they're buildable, and also the shimmers are spectacular. And the last palette, but not least, is the one that is quite special to my collection. This palette would definitely make it on like top 15 eyeshadow palettes in my entire eyeshadow palette collection, not only for the quality of itself, because the quality of this palette is really solid, but also the color story is very beautiful. And this is Mandalorian the Child eyeshadow palette from Colourpop. Besides that, the design of this palette is just super cute and adorable, but what's inside of it, that's what matters. And this color story is perfect for a neutral lover, because these neutral shades are your true neutral. They're not too warm, they're not too cool tone, and these greens are just so flattering. The quality of this palette is just so solid. There are no duds in this palette. The shimmers are beautiful, soft, reflective. They pick up easily with finger brushes. Just a very great formula overall to work with. And you may have seen this palette in my fall eyeshadow palette wardrobe. This palette, to my opinion, is perfect for year-round. If you are the person who just like to have a stash of palettes that you just enjoy all year round and you can just use them to whenever time you want to use them, I think this is one of those palettes that can just sit on your desk year-round and you can enjoy it at any time you want to. Right. So this sums up my video today. I hope you enjoyed it and saw some of the palettes that you already love and own. Let me know if you have any of these palettes already and you love them as much as I do. If you have any other of your favorite eyeshadow palettes that I did not feature in this video, please share with all of us in the comments below. We would all love to know what you're loving this season. And thank you so much for watching this video and hanging out with me today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on your notifications so that you are notified every time I upload a new video. Again, thank you so much for watching and I will see you in my next videos. Bye.